What's up, y'all, and welcome to another installment of the For the Gram podcast. This is the show where I, Jaksyn, your host, am going to dive into a topic of interest to me. So it could be like a hip trend or something that's like currently happening, but in the end, it's all going to be crazy enough for the gram. This episode, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. So I love movies, as you all know by now, but I wanted to go through every Marvel movie from the past 16 years or so, and I wanted to go through and just rank them on like a tier list type of a thing. So I'm gonna go through it on here, and I'm gonna give my feedback on every single one of the 33 movies that has come out, and I'm just gonna rank them, I guess, for lack of a better word. And so, without further ado, I have to add a disclaimer that everything I say in this episode is my own opinion. It is subjective. That is what I love about the movie community. So please don't judge me too harshly on my rankings of these movies. But I know there are going to be some that we agree on and some that we don't necessarily agree on. So with that all being said, I'm going to just go through this here right now, and then I'm going to put a picture of the finalized ranking in the show notes below if you want to follow along that way. If you need like a visual as I'm talking to you audibly, that might be a cool thing too, and then you can just follow along that way. And I'm not going to necessarily be ranking them within the tiers so that I can just have them in there so you can kind of follow along, bounce around with me as I do so. So first of all, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to tell you the names of the tiers that I have. So the top tier is going to be named the best of the best. So these are the S tier, top tier movies that I watch so many times. The next one below that is going to be better every watch. So these ones are going to be the movies that I watch more often, and I find new things that I like about them every time that I watch them. The next one is going to be solid flick. This one is a solid movie. I don't think it's up there with the best of the best, but it's not nearly like middle of the pack. You know what I mean? And then going to the middle tier, it's going to be, it's fine. It's fine. I don't have much to say. It's not bad. It's not great. It's fine. Sound good? Sound good. Okay. Moving on. The next tier below, it's fine, is I'm desperate. So if I have to watch these movies, I will watch them. But they're not like my go-to, right? I'm not flipping through the channels and being like, oh, this movie's on, I'm going to watch it. No. If I have nothing else to do, I will watch these movies. Next one after that, I have Wish I'd Never Seen. So these are the movies that I don't want to have in my brain vault. But following that up, and that goes perfectly well with the bottom tier, haven't seen. So I haven't seen 2 of the movies out of all 33 of the MCU movies. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to put those in right now. Some of these are not going to be really a surprise to anybody. If you know me, you know that I haven't seen these movies. So the first one that goes in there is obviously Thor Love and Thunder. I've not seen Thor Love and Thunder, nor do I plan to see Thor Love and Thunder. And people know that. This tier list also does have the Marvel TV shows on it, but I will not be ranking those in this episode. So Thor Love and Thunder goes in haven't seen, and then The Marvels goes in haven't seen. The most recent of all of the Marvel movies goes in haven't seen. I haven't seen it. I don't really want to see it necessarily. The characters don't excite me in any way, but those are the 2 that go in haven't seen. I have not seen those movies. So now we're going to start with the very beginning of the MCU back in 2008 with Iron Man 1. Iron Man 1, it's fine. I don't love it. I don't hate it. But it's the kickoff of the MCU, so I have to just start off with fine. It's okay. I like Robert Downey Jr. I used to not like his portrayal as Iron Man, but at the same time, you think about it, who else is gonna have extreme close-ups on their face like that and not get boring to watch all the time? So Iron Man 1 goes in, it's fine. The Incredible Hulk. This one I've only seen once, so I'm gonna throw it in the I'm desperate. I'm not gonna throw it on. This is the one with Edward Norton. I do like Edward Norton, but I prefer Mark Ruffalo when it comes to the Hulk. So I'm gonna throw it in I'm desperate, because I'm not like eager to turn it on, but I'll turn it on if I have to watch something. You know what I mean? Following up in the I'm desperate category is Thor 1. I'm not going to go out of my way to watch Thor 1. Like, the Frost Giants are pretty cool, and the origin story is fine, but I'm not a fan of Jane Foster, as you will learn very quickly in this tier list. So, yeah, just keep that in mind as we go on through there. Tom Hiddleston, great. Chris Hemsworth, great. Idris Elba as Heimdall, I love me some Idris Elba, but at the same time, Thor goes in I'm desperate as well. Next, Iron Man 2, wish I'd never seen. You have no idea how, this is what I call the Spider-Man 3 effect. You have no idea how excited I was to see Whiplash in a movie until he actually showed up. And then I was like, okay, let's chill out a little bit. The reason I say it's a Spider-Man 3 effect is because I was so excited to see Venom in a movie. This is, of course, the Tobey Maguire Raimi trilogy, but I was so excited to see Venom in a movie, and then they made him all cringy and weird, and yeah, so I'm not, like, it goes in the category with that. Like, I just don't want to see it ever again. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily my favorite at all. Then the next one, Captain America, The First Avenger. This one's a solid flick. I like war movies, and so as a result, this one goes in. It's a solid flick. I liked the story. I like Captain America. I remember when I was watching it for the first time, he went into the, like, chamber thing and just emerged, and I was like, he just turned into the real Chris Evans, all, like, buff and stuff, and I love Bucky. James Buchanan Barnes is one of my favorite characters in all of the MCU. I want to be him. That would be amazing. But he is really good in this movie. It's not his best performance. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I like Red Skull a lot too. Red Skull as a villain was great. Any World War II movie, I'm all for it. So it's a solid flick. Next is Avengers 1. It's fine. I get it. It's the first team up of all of the Avengers. It's the end of phase 1. I get it. But this movie, there was a moment in time where it was on every day on a certain channel, and so I would watch. It's like when I first watched Pirates of the Caribbean for the first time, it was just on TV, so I would end up watching the same scenes from it over and over and over again, and to the point where I like knew what happened in the movie, but I never knew what order it came in. So I was just like, I know the movie. Like, I've seen it 27 times in the past 3 weeks, but I don't know the order in which things happen. But now I'm just like, I watched it again. I fell asleep within the first 7 minutes, like before Romanoff goes to find the Hulk. Like, I fell asleep. Like, I don't fall asleep during movies unless I'm either really, really tired or really, really bored. And so that was one of them, and it was very quick. So I I think it's fine. Like, it's a good movie. Like, it's a nice team up superhero movie. And there are some moments from it that I do quote all the time, but it's fine. Nothing great about it. And then Thor: The Dark World. Wish I'd never seen. This is objectively the worst movie in all of the MCU. Like, people don't like the story. People don't like that they forced an Infinity Stone in there. I don't like Jane Foster. So they made an entire movie about Jane Foster. And I did not like it at all. The elves, kind of cool. Loki, kind of cool. But the rest of it was just not it. When they had a Chris Evans cameo in this one, and I liked that part of it, but that is the 5 redeemable seconds of this movie. So, Thor: The Dark World, wish I'd never seen it. They're more valuable uses of my brain space. Iron Man 3, I'm desperate. I'm not gonna, go out of my way to watch it, right? But I will watch it. It's not a bad film, per se. Just everybody has an Iron Man suit, and I wish they did the Mandarin a little better, but we'll get to that in a little bit, too. But I have to be the most desperate human on the face of the planet if I want to watch this movie. So, don't even get me started on Iron Man 3. Next, we're going to a more positive note. This is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I'm going to put this one in better every watch. I love Winter Soldier. This is subjectively one of my favorite films in probably ever, but also just of the MCU. It's got a nice twist in there. The story's easy to follow. I love Bucky. Bucky's one of my favorite people in all of the MCU. So I definitely think that is worth a better every watch. I do like this movie more and more every time that I watch it. And I do watch it quite a lot. So there's that part of it too. Next, we have Guardians of the Galaxy 1. So this is the first Guardians of the Galaxy. If you know me, you know I'm not that big on the Guardians. It's not my type of humor. James Gunn isn't my favorite director, but I'm going to put it in solid flick. I think it was a good way to introduce characters that weren't exactly known by the populace and put them in a light that you can enjoy their camaraderie, their humor, their comedy with each other. I do love Chris Pratt. I love Bradley Cooper, who plays Rocket the Raccoon, which is great. I think they did a good job of incorporating the Infinity Stones through the Guardians, so it's gonna go in solid flick. I think it's not the most rewatchable movie in my opinion, but I do like some of the jokes in it, like the dance off to save the universe, in Footloose. I got a kick out of that one, but we can talk more about the Guardians a little bit later. And then capping off phase 2, we have Avengers: Age of Ultron, which I am going to put in it's fine. It's not my favorite of the Avengers movies by any means, but it got James Spader in it. It's got Quicksilver, who's one of my favorite comic book heroes. You get introduced to the Scarlet Witch in this one as well. And so I think it's a good movie, and it has a lot of the groundwork for the Avengers turning against Tony later on. But I think it's fine. I'll watch it if it's on, just because there are some good parts to it, but it's not my favorite movie. This is actually one of the first Marvel movies that I've ever seen was Age of Ultron. So it set the bar, and the bar was kind of mid, it was very middle of the pack, so that's why I'm going to put it at it's fine for the sake of this ranking. And then we got Ant-Man. Ant-Man is a solid flick. I love Ant-Man. I think Ant-Man is a very underrated MCU character. But at the same time, I think Luis is the best character in the entirety of the MCU, just because his storytelling is my favorite thing, and his energy is great. Every time Paul Rudd or Scott Lang, in the context of the movie, anytime he's going through something, Luis is like, oh yeah, I got the van, you guys, like, let's go, come on. And he's like the right hand man, and he's very Donkey from Shrek, and I love it a lot. Or like just any Eddie Murphy sidekick character, I love it. He's that person, and I love it so much. I do think it is very close to being in better every watch, but I think right now I'm just going to stick it in solid flick, because I think it's solid. I think this is the groundwork of a lot of my rankings. Is it better than Ant-Man, or is it worse than Ant-Man? And that's how I'm just going to put it in the different levels. Just because Ant-Man is very middle of the pack. I do like it. I like the Hank Pym storylines, and we could talk about that again later, just because there are so many Ant-Man films now. But next we have Captain America Civil War. This, I think, is the weakest of the Captain America films. I think I'm gonna put it in solid flick, though. It's like worse than First Avenger, but it's still a solid flick, just because you have the introduction of Black Panther, which we can talk about a little bit later. But it's just internal conflict, right? There's a lot of fighting between the heroes, who we all assume to be the heroes, just over errors in judgment, right? It does have its downsides, this movie, but this is one of the funniest Stan Lee cameos, if you're asking my opinion. So I will put it right now in solid flick, just because it's solid. I won't go out of my way to rewatch this movie, but it's a good movie. Now we're going to get to some controversy. Doctor Strange. I love Doctor Strange. Like, he is one of my favorite heroes from the comics. Once I found out there was gonna be a Doctor Strange movie, I got really, really excited about it. The fact that he's played by Benedict Cumberbatch is another bonus, just because there's a meticulous nature to the character of Stephen Strange, Doctor Strange, and he does so well with that, and I am gonna put it in better every watch. I'm not gonna go that crazy and put it in the best of the best, but I'm gonna put it in better every watch, just because I think it's a really, really good movie. I enjoy it so much. And if you don't enjoy it, I mean, that's fine too. You're entitled to your own opinion, but I'm gonna put it up there pretty high. Yeah, I have no shame about that one. Putting Doctor Strange up there. Literally, I want a sling ring so bad. Like, this is a total side tangent, but like, if there's any, one of my friends from high school, we would both say that if we could have any superpower out of any of them, like when you're asked those like icebreaker questions, we would both say Master of the Mystic Arts, and nobody else would understand it, and you'd just be like, it's Doctor Strange, and everybody would be like, oh yeah, I get it. But I want a sling ring so bad. Like, the Cloak of Levitation would be cool, the Eye of Agamotto, but I don't want to have to protect it, because that would be a little crazy. But I think that a sling ring would be amazing, because it's basically teleportation, but your mind, like, you're thinking about it. It is a spell, the sling ring is, but You can just go wherever you want to. Just step through a portal and you're there. Like, it's like the rings in Sonic. Like, if you know anything about Sonic, which, if you know me, I love Sonic the Hedgehog, but we could talk about that in another podcast because I have so much to say about Sonic. But it's like the rings in Sonic. Like, I want a sling ring just so I can be like Sonic the Hedgehog and go to all these different planets and stuff. But I digress. The next movie on the list in chronological order is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It's fine. I don't really know where I'm going to place this one other than it's fine, just because I do love one of these things about these movies that I do love is the soundtracks. Like, you can say whatever you want about the Guardians, but if you say that it has a bad soundtrack, then you're lying, for one, just because, like, I love 80s and 90s music in general, and so getting some of those, there are some songs that we'll just be singing, me and my friends, from the Guardians movies, and one of my professors will walk up and be like, how do you guys know that song? And we're like, it's from the Guardians of the Galaxy. And he goes, oh, I don't know what that means, but carry on. And we're like, yeah. And so we just keep singing, and they do have a callback to a lot of the stuff from Guardians 2, and I thought that Guardians 2 was going to show us where the Soul Stone was, but we were very wrong on that. But yeah, I think Yondu had a very good redemption arc. If you don't know what that is, it doesn't really matter. But I think he had a good redemption arc, I guess. But if you ever want to jam out to Fleetwood Mac, like, just watch this movie. Like, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Next up, Spider-Man: Homecoming. Okay, it's fine. Yeah. There's my hot take for the podcast. I think Tom Holland is the worst of the three cinematic Spider-Man. I know. It's crazy. It's outlandish. But I think Tobey was something special. Andrew is slept on a lot. And Tom is just the new era of Spider-Man. And I prefer Miles Morales over anything Tom Holland Spider-Man. I will defend this until the day I die. I do not like the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. So it's fine. The Vulture is, in my mind, the only redeeming quality about this movie. I am not a fan of Tom Holland at all. Zendaya is okay. Ned was a great addition, but like Michael Keaton as the Vulture is crossing universes, for one, because he was Batman. But like, I don't like that Tony Stark is Uncle Ben in this universe. Like, if you're gonna go for it, if you're gonna go for Spider-Man, you can't really take out Uncle Ben. There's no Oscorp in the MCU, but I'm getting ahead of myself. There are other opportunities for me to talk about this. Thor Ragnarok. I'm so tempted to put it in best of the best. I'm so tempted. But I'm going to put it in better every watch just because I want to save best of the best for something special here. But yeah, I think Thor Ragnarok is definitely a good movie. It is the point where they realized Thor should be funny and Chris Hemsworth can be funny, but Taika Waititi also is a great director for this movie. And Jojo Rabbit. If you haven't seen Jojo Rabbit, it's about a little 10-year-old boy who grows up in Nazi Germany, and it's wild. It's wild. But Taika Waititi voices Korg, the pile of rocks, who is one of my favorite characters in the MCU, up there with Bucky and some other people. But I really, really liked this movie. It gives us justification of where Thor and Hulk were during Civil War, because they were the only two notable missing. They were the only two people missing that were notable enough from Civil War. And so that was cool. And then Chris Hemsworth getting to beat down on Asgard people, that was cool too. Scourge the Executioner, he was also a pretty funny character. But he was supposed to be funny, so it's hard for me to like the characters that are supposed to be funny, but he was funny, I thought. And so, but everybody was funny. Jeff Goldblum was in there just to be funny, and I was all for that, honestly. Black Panther. Where do I want to put Black Panther? I love this movie. I saw it in theaters opening weekend, and I really, really love this movie. And I'm trying not to taint it on the fact that Chadwick Boseman died. If you didn't know, Chadwick Boseman, the actor who played T'Challa in Black Panther, died of cancer in 2020, I want to say. So it was like COVID happened, and then Chadwick Boseman died, and we were all like, what? No. But I really like this movie. I'm a big Martin Freeman guy, and Michael B. Jordan was also really good in this one. He was in his Creed form for it. Man, I'm gonna put it in better every watch, just because I can't put it in best of the best. I can't do it, because here it is, the best of the best. Infinity War and Endgame in tandem are the best of the best of Marvel. How can you complete a 22 movie, 23 movie saga? How can you cap that off except in an epic 2-part movie finale, basically? A part of it that I really, really liked was I did get to witness this phenomenon in theaters, and that made it all the more special, I think, getting to see both of them in theaters. And then the ending of Infinity War was one of my favorite endings in all of cinema, because they didn't give you the ending you wanted, they gave you the ending you needed. And that is a scary thing to do in movies and TV today. That's why my favorite show is Ted Lasso, because Ted Lasso gives you endings that you need to see, like realistic endings. People don't always win, and you have to be okay with that, but that's life. Like, life is hard, you guys. So getting to see that in an Avengers movie, like, the Avengers lost. They did. And then they got rid of everybody, brought them back to the original 6, and Rocket and Groot and Nebula. Well, and Rocket and Nebula and Rhodey? War Machine? He's there, and Ant-Man. So it's brought back down to like a core 10 group of people, and then it gets all the way up to this climactic fight against 2014 Thanos, which is arguably a more evil villain than 2019 Thanos, just because he hasn't found a sense of morality yet, right? So he is evil for the sake of being evil. He hasn't seen the morality of his plan. He just wants to execute the plan, and it's scary. Oh my goodness, like, you have no idea how scary this Titan was before he found the morality of everything. So, best of the best, tier of their own, Infinity War and Endgame. Like, in tandem, they have to both be there, otherwise you're messing it up a little bit. Okay. Spider-Man Far From Home. This is the second one. I have to be desperate to watch this movie. I love Jake Gyllenhaal. I love J.K. Simmons. I love Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, but I cannot watch this movie. I've seen it twice, and I can't do it. I can't do it, you guys. Like, this is not a movie for me. I love Mysterio as a character, But as soon as I saw Mysterio in the trailers, I knew exactly what I was going to be getting from a story standpoint, just because I knew the story of Mysterio. And I thought they were going to rip the carpet out from under me and be like, oh no, we're not going to do the typical Mysterio storyline. But then they did. And so they ripped the rug out from ripping the rug out from under me, and I was not prepared for it. And I'm not a fan of this movie, in all honesty. I do like the fact that it makes you question reality a lot more in the MCU, but at the same time, I think that just is a cover for them if they make mistakes in the future. You know what I mean? So, going on, I have Ant-Man and the Wasp. Oh, I do like this movie. I think it's an underrated movie, but I have to be desperate to watch this movie. The only time, I think I've seen this movie 3 times. I saw it once when it came out. I saw it once since then because it was just on TV, and I watched it to get a refresher on it for Ant-Man 3, which we'll get to later. But Luis is saving this movie because of the Luis classic recap montage. But it was a fine movie. I'm not gonna put it in its fine just because I don't think it's up there with those movies. I just don't want to watch it that often. I like it, but I have to be desperate in order to watch it. You know what I mean? Going after that, Captain Marvel. Wish I never saw it. I think that one speaks for itself. Goose the Cat, great addition. Following that with Black Widow. I'm desperate if I'm watching this movie. I liked it when it first came out. It was the second movie that I'd seen Florence Pugh in, because I had seen Little Women, and then I saw Black Widow. Fun fact, Black Widow was supposed to be rated R, and they toned it down to make it PG-13, because they knew nobody was going to go see it. So they had David Harbour calm down a little bit. He plays Red Guardian, but I think the story was cool. I wish they could have dove more into Budapest a little bit, but Black Widow, nice origin story, but I don't necessarily want to watch it all the time. You know what I mean? Now we get into like the new era of Marvel. This is where I think they've played all the cards they had, and they don't really know where to go. So this is when they're splitting their creative team on both movies and TV shows and their Disney Plus originals, which some of those are good, but some of them also really, really fall short. So we have 7 movies left, so we're just going to power through here. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, better every watch. I loved this movie just because I'm a film nerd and I'm a big fan of stunt choreography and fight choreography. And so this movie was really, really cool because it was a lot of hand-to-hand combat instead of shooting guns and using superpowers and things like that. And I really like karate movies, so this really kind of showcased that a little bit. And then, like I was saying about Iron Man 3 and how they didn't play the Mandarin very well, they play into that so much in this movie, and I think it's hilarious. They have the guy who played the Mandarin in Iron Man 3 there, and he's imprisoned by the actual Mandarin, and it's so funny. His name is Trevor, I think. But then there are like all these cool creatures and stuff, and there's a dragon and stuff like that. So I really liked this one. I saw this one in theaters, and it was totally worth it. The next one is Eternals. It's fine. I also saw this one in theaters. I was with my sister, and there were 6 of us in the theater, and it was opening weekend. So Eternals was not that great. It fell victim to the too many characters for one single movie, because there were 10 of them, and there were probably 4 minutes out of the movie was them just standing dramatically in a line so that we could remember who all was a part of the team. But it was a cool concept. I just think it would be better in a show instead of a movie. So it's fine. Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm going against every fiber of my being, and I'm calling it a solid flick. I really liked the direction they went with this one. And I think it was a good idea. I still think Tom Holland is not the greatest Spider-Man, but they were really hammering in on the fact that people think Andrew is not the greatest Spider-Man because Andrew is in the film and they dog on him a lot, and I feel bad. I feel so bad. And then my favorite part is when they're all in the lab and they start putting their web fluid in their web shooters, and Toby just shoots the web out of his wrist, and they go, "That came out of you," and we're like, "Yeah, he's the only one who has like biological webs and stuff." And so that was a cool thing. That was a cool fan service moment that I really liked in it. But I just think the quality of these movies like just go down the further you go. I think it goes 3-1-2 for how these movies are ranked in my mind, as you can see emulated on this tier list thing. But it's solid. I liked it when I watched it the first time, and then the post-credit scene with Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock, who plays Venom, made me really, really excited because I do love Venom a lot, and having a good Venom in the MCU is something that I've been waiting for a long time. Next, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I actually went to this movie instead of going to my prom. So, fun fact, my prom date was Benedict Cumberbatch, and I was sitting in a theater watching Multiverse of Madness. At the same time, it's fine. I love Sam Raimi. I do. The Raimi trilogy of Spider-Man is pretty good. They did a lot of horror in this one, which I was not expecting. But as soon as they announced that Sam Raimi was the director, I kind of had a feeling, just because he did the Evil Dead movies with Bruce Campbell and all those people. So, I was expecting a lot of B horror content, and that's what we got. So I do like the way that they're intertwining the Disney Plus shows into the MCU movies, and they did that through like WandaVision and stuff like that. So you don't necessarily have to see WandaVision in order to watch Multiverse of Madness, but at some point, like, they do reference stuff from it, and so if you watched it, then you're like, "Oh, hey, look at that. We got this." So there's that, and then on the line of disappointing sequels, we have Wakanda Forever. It's fine, again. I don't think they could have done anything better with the loss of Chadwick Boseman, but the leads of this movie did really, really good for what they were given. Shuri was a really underrated character that they got to flesh out a lot in this movie, and then they did bring Michael B. Jordan back as Killmonger, and I was very happy about that, because I wanted him to get resurrected so bad to be the new Black Panther of Wakanda, but it was not a bad movie. It just wasn't the greatest. All the Atlantean people were fine, but that plot's been overused a lot of the time, so I was happy with it ultimately. Shuri being the Black Panther is what I wanted out of the first movie. If they kind of had a throwaway thing that, like, when they were trying to give it to Nakia, give the herb to Nakia when they lost T'Challa, they were like, "Oh, you should take it," and then Shuri's like, "What? I was gonna take it," you know? But Black Panther Wakanda Forever, it's fine. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantum Mania, it's fine. I thought it was fine. I was not like thrilled by this movie. Um, seeing Kang in the live action TV show universe versus in the um, movie universe was pretty cool. Whatever they did to speed up his punches to make him look like he was going super fast, super powerful, that was really cool. But some of the story parts fell off. There was the one blob guy who just wanted holes. That was all he wanted, and he was funny. But I have only seen this movie twice in its entirety. I watched it once in theaters, and then I watched bits and pieces of it since then. But I do love Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd's character is great. I was a little concerned with what they were going to do with grown-up Cassie, but they did that okay, I guess. It wasn't the greatest way they could have gone with it, but it was fine. I enjoyed it a little bit. But I do think Hank Pym was kind of sidelined a little bit, and yeah, so they just kind of threw him in at the end there, and it was whatever. But now we're getting to the last movie in chronological order of the MCU that I have seen, and it's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I know I said I don't really resonate with the Guardians. Like, it's not my humor, really. But this movie hit me. Oh my goodness. Like, getting the Rocket backstory, like, it hurt. I don't cry at a lot of movies, but this one got me real close. Oh man. I'm putting it in better every watch just because there are moments that I didn't miss when I was watching it in the theaters, just because I was so focused on the story and just trying to figure things out as the characters were figuring things out. I think it's the best in terms of heart. I think it's the best of the Guardians films in terms of comedy. I thought someone was gonna die. Like, that's where I thought it was going, and it didn't get there, which I'm happy with a little bit, just because they were already ripping at your heartstrings as you were watching the backstory unfold, but they really, really dove into the sensitive aspect of the storyline, and the fact that Rocket was just unconscious for half the movie, and the comic relief just is gone. It makes some of the other characters need to step up, and I think they did really, really well with that. Another thing is, what's his name? James Gunn's brother, who played, oh gosh, I'm forgetting the character's name, but he's the new Yondu, basically. He and Cosmo, that storyline I was not a fan of all that much, but I did really, really like this movie, and it restored my faith in the MCU, that they weren't just trying to create a bunch of cash grab sequels, and they were actually like going back to doing a good story. And I think James Gunn has a lot to do with that, and I'm just happy for what's to come if we're gonna get more projects like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And it was a nice bookend to the story, and I was so happy when I left the theater, because I was like, Marvel movies are good again. And then the list came out for Phase 6 and Phase 7, and then the other TV shows and Avengers level movies that are coming out, and then I got a little sad again, but I'm still hopeful, because if they can do really, really well with that, like they did, then I just hope that they can work that level of storytelling back into the MCU, because finding characters and making them mainstream was what they were known for back in the early days in 2008 when they started with Iron Man. So if they're able to do that with some of these newer characters, I'm all for it. Give me some more of that stuff. But anyway, that's going to do it for this week's episode of For the Gram. Thank you all for listening, and if you liked the show or have any feedback whatsoever, you can either DM my Instagram at forthegrahampod, all lowercases, no spaces, and you could also send me an email at forthegrahampod@gmail.com. But that's gonna do it for this episode. Feel free to let me know what your rankings of the Marvel movies are. If you want to see my completed tier list, I'm going to link it in the show notes below. But with all that being said, thank you guys again for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.